I accidentally splashed coffee on the alien princess, she said. Take my clothes off immediately. The coffee cup exploded across the pristine white fabric the moment Jake's elbow hit the table. He watched in horror as brown liquid soaked into what was clearly the most expensive outfit he had ever seen. The woman wearing it stood frozen, her violet eyes wide with shock. Her skin had an odd shimmer to it, almost translucent in the harsh fluorescent lights of the campus coffee shop. Jake grabbed napkins, his hand shaking. This was his first week at the Interstellar Studies program. His first week meeting actual aliens. And he had just dumped scalding coffee all over someone who looked incredibly important. The woman's 3 fingers clutched at the stained fabric. Her breathing quickened. Small wisps of steam rose from where the liquid had hit her chest. Then she spoke, her voice sharp with urgency. Take my clothes off immediately. Jake's face went red. Students around them stopped talking. Someone dropped their phone. The barista behind the counter made a choking sound. I'm sorry. What? Jake stammered. Now. The fabric is burning me. Your coffee has an acid compound that reacts with Zetherian skin. I need these clothes off in the next 30 seconds, or I will require medical intervention. Jake looked around desperately. A maintenance closet sat 20 feet away. He grabbed her arm, the texture strange and cool under his palm, and pulled her toward it. She stumbled after him, her movements becoming jerky. He shoved the door open and dragged her inside. The moment the door closed, she began tearing at her shirt. Jake turned his back, his face burning hotter than any coffee could manage. Help me. The fasteners are different from human clothing. Jake squeezed his eyes shut and reached back blindly. His fingers found what felt like magnetic seals along her spine. He pulled them apart one by one, trying to ignore the way her breathing had become ragged with pain. The shirt came free. She dropped it on the floor with a hiss. Jake kept his eyes fixed on the wall of cleaning supplies in front of him. He could hear her working on the rest of her clothes. Is there water? A sink? Jake pointed to a utility sink in the corner. Without looking, he heard water running, heard her gasp of relief. 2 minutes passed in agonizing silence. You may turn around now. Jake turned slowly. She had wrapped herself in paper towels and was using a wet cloth to dab at red welts across her shoulders. Her violet eyes met his, and for the first time he noticed the thin crown of crystalline structures that circled her head like a halo. I am Princess Kira of Zethar 7. You just prevented a diplomatic incident. Jake felt his stomach drop. Princess? He had just stripped a princess in a janitor's closet. I'm Jake. I'm really sorry about the coffee. Kira tilted her head, studying him. Your reaction speed was impressive. Most humans would have frozen or made assumptions about my request. You understood the urgency and acted. I used to be an EMT, Jake said weakly. Kira smiled, revealing teeth that were slightly too sharp. Then you understand crisis management. Good. Because I am about to make you an offer. An offer. I need a human liaison. Someone who understands both urgency and discretion. My previous liaison was killed 3 days ago. The faction that murdered him is currently trying to sabotage the peace talks between Zethar and humanity. I need someone unexpected. Someone they will not see coming. Jake stared at her. I spilled coffee on you, and in doing so you showed me more competence than half my royal guard. She stepped closer, her eyes intense. I need someone who will act when seconds matter. Will not hesitate because protocol demands it. You pulled a princess into a closet and undressed her because it was the logical thing to do. That kind of thinking will keep me alive. This is insane. Yes, Kira's smile widened. But you are considering it. I can see it in your posture. You are not walking away. Jake realized she was right. He should be backing toward the door, making excuses, running back to his normal life. Instead, he was calculating angles, thinking about the implications. His EMT training had never fully left him. Neither had his stint in Army intelligence that he never talked about. What exactly would this liaison job involve? Keeping me alive? Identifying threats. Acting as my cultural translator when I deal with human officials, occasionally making difficult decisions in very short time frames. She paused. The pay is substantial. Your family would be financially secure for life. Jake thought of his sister's medical bills, his mother's mortgage, the weight of debt that hung around his neck like chains. What about school? You will continue your studies. This gives you excellent cover. No one expects a student to be protecting an alien princess. Why me? Really? Kira's expression became serious because in the 30 seconds you had to make a choice, you chose correctly. You saw past social convention to immediate necessity. That quality's rare. Among humans and Zetharians alike. Someone knocked on the door. Princess Kira, we have a clean change of clothes. The voice was deep and carried an odd harmonic quality. That is my guard. They finally caught up. Kira turned back to Jake. I need an answer. My enemies are already moving against me. The human who preceded you was killed because he got too close to uncovering their plan. They think I am now vulnerable. They are wrong, but only if you say yes. Jake looked at the paper towels barely covering her, at the welts on her skin from his carelessness, at the absolute certainty in her alien eyes. He thought about years of boring classes and minimum wage jobs. He thought about his sister dying slowly because they could not afford better treatment. He thought about how the princess had not blamed him, had not called for help, had trusted him in her moment of crisis. I'm in, Jake said. Kira's smile could have lit the small closet. Then we begin immediately. My enemies think I will attend the reception tonight despite the assassination attempt. They will be correct. But this time I will have surprise on my side. She moved toward the door, then paused. And Jake? Try not to spill anything else on me. Once was charming. Twice would be careless. The door opened and two massive figures in armor swept Kira away, leaving Jake alone with a pile of acid-burned clothes, and the growing realization that his life had just changed completely. He looked down at his coffee-stained hands and laughed. The sound echoed off the cleaning supplies like a promise. The reception hall glittered with lights from 6 different star systems. Jake tugged at his borrowed formal jacket and tried not to stare at the assembled delegates. His earpiece crackled with Kira's voice. Third pillar from the left, grayskin with red markings. That is Ambassador Vorn. He arrived 2 hours early and has been mapping exit routes. Jake nodded slightly, cataloging the information. The security briefing had been brutal. 4 hours of crash course training in Zetharian politics, threat assessment, and what Kira's head of security called acceptable collateral damage parameters. Jake was still processing that last part. Acceptable collateral damage had never been part of his EMT training. He circulated through the crowd, a glass of something blue and fizzing in his hand. The other human students from his program kept trying to catch his attention, probably wanting to gossip about the coffee incident. He ignored them. His eyes tracked movement patterns, identified weapons, noted who spoke to whom. The Zetharian Royal Guard had given him a crash course in alien body language. Apparently, when a Krellian's neck ridges flared, they were either about to attack or about to laugh. Context mattered. Jake made a mental note to stay away from Krellians until he could tell the difference. Kira stood at the center of the room, surrounded by dignitaries. Her new outfit shimmered like starlight, covering every trace of the burns. She caught his eye briefly and made a gesture he had been taught meant, proceed to checkpoint 2. Jake moved toward the east wing, where the reception spilled over into a garden courtyard. The Earth Embassy had outdone themselves with the decorations, real trees mixed with holographic displays showing various planetary ecosystems. It should have been beautiful. Instead, Jake saw a dozen places an assassin could hide. His earpiece crackled again. Do you see the Zetharian near the fountain? Silver hair, blue diplomatic sash? Yeah. Jake pretended to examine a flowering bush while watching the alien in question. He is Council Member Drace. He voted against the peace accords. His presence here is unexpected. Is he a threat? Unknown. Watch him. If he approaches me, position yourself for intervention. What kind of intervention? Whatever kind keeps me breathing. Jake moved closer, weaving through clusters of conversation. A human senator was arguing with an insectoid delegate about trade routes. 2 Zetharian nobles were laughing at something on a holographic display. Everything looked normal. Everything felt wrong. The training from his old life kicked in. Pattern recognition. Threat assessment. Jake had spent 18 months in Army intelligence before a training accident had ended his career and sent him back to civilian life. He had thought that chapter was closed. Apparently the universe had other plans. Drace moved away from the fountain, heading toward the main hall. Jake followed at a distance. His earpiece was silent. Either Kira was busy or she trusted him to handle this himself. The council member turned down a service corridor. Jake's instincts screamed. No dignitary should be in a service corridor during a reception. He quickened his pace. The corridor opened into a storage area filled with catering supplies. Drace stood with his back turned, speaking into a communication device. Jake could not understand the language, but the tone was clear. Orders, coordination, timing. Jake's hand moved to his pocket, where a small device the Royal Guard had given him rested. Press once for alert, press twice for immediate response, press 3 times for lethal intervention. He pressed once and backed away slowly, footsteps behind him, fast. Jake spun and found himself facing a human man in a caterer's uniform. The man's eyes were cold, professional. His hand was reaching for something under his jacket. Jake moved on instinct. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisted, used his momentum to slam him face first into the wall. The man's weapon clattered to the floor. Some kind of alien pistol, compact and deadly looking. More footsteps. Two Zetherian guards rounded the corner, weapons drawn. They saw Jake holding the human against the wall, saw the dropped pistol, saw Drace speaking urgently into his communicator in the room beyond. "Secure the council member," Jake said. This one was going for a weapon. The guards moved like liquid mercury. One grabbed Drace while the other took custody of Jake's captive. A third guard appeared, this one wearing the insignia of the Royal Protection Detail. "Princess Kira requires your presence immediately." They escorted Jake back through winding corridors until he reached a small conference room. Kyra stood inside, surrounded by her senior guards. Her expression was controlled, but her eyes blazed. "You found the trigger man. Well done." "There is more," Jake said. Drace was coordinating with someone. He was in a service corridor using a private communicator during the reception. "That is not normal behavior." Kira's jaw tightened. "No, it is not." She turned to her head of security. "Interrogate them both. Find out who else is involved. This does not end with two conspirators." The room emptied until only Jake and Kira remained. She sat down heavily in a chair, the regal bearing dropping away for just a moment. "My father warned me that the peace accords would cost blood. I did not think it would be so soon." Jake pulled up a chair across from her. "If Drace is involved, how deep does this go? He is on your ruling council," which is precisely why they chose him, a trusted official coordinating with a human assassin. "It makes both our species look guilty. Sabotages the treaty." Kira rubbed her temples. "Someone wants this war to continue very badly." "Who benefits from continued conflict?" "The military-industrial complex on both sides. Certain noble houses who have grown rich from weapons manufacturing. Criminal syndicates who thrive in chaos." She looked up at him. "The list is longer than I would like." "So what is our next move?" "Our move." Kira smiled slightly. "You have accepted the role completely, I see." "I grabbed an assassin. Seems like I am committed now." Yes, you are." She stood, the regal bearing returning. "Our next move is to survive long enough to expose the conspiracy, which means you need proper training. My guards will begin teaching you advanced threat detection tomorrow. Tonight, we simply try not to get killed." "Great," Jake said, "and here I thought college would be boring." Kira laughed, a sound like chimes in wind. "Oh, you have not experienced boring since you spilled that coffee. Get used to it." They returned to the reception together. The crowd had thinned, but the music still played. Jake noticed the other human students staring at him with new interest. Word had apparently spread about the capture. A human reporter approached, camera drone hovering at her shoulder. "Excuse me, you are the one who stopped the assassination attempt." "Can you comment?" "No comment," Jake said, moving past her. The reporter persisted. "Is it true you are Princess Kira's new personal liaison? How does a college student end up in royal protection?" "He spilled coffee on me," Kira said smoothly, stopping beside Jake. In doing so, he revealed a rare competency. "I collect competent people. Now, if you'll excuse us." She guided Jake away, her hand light on his arm. The reporter shouted more questions, but they ignored her. "That was diplomatic," Jake said. "Diplomacy is knowing when to talk and when to walk away." Kira's grip on his arm tightened slightly. "We are being followed." Jake did not look back. "How many?" "2. Possibly more. They've been trailing us since we left the conference room." "Service exit or main entrance?" "Neither." "We go up." Kira steered him toward a decorative staircase. "The upper gallery is restricted. If they follow us there, we know they are hostile. And if they are hostile, then you get to practice your new skills sooner than expected." They climbed the stairs together, Jake's heart pounding. Behind them, he heard careful footsteps beginning to ascend. The game had begun in earnest. His EMT training had taught him to save lives. His military training had taught him to take them when necessary. Tonight he might need both. The upper gallery was dimly lit, filled with art from Earth and Zethar. Portraits of leaders, abstract sculptures, historical artifacts behind protective glass, beautiful and isolated, perfect for a confrontation. Jake and Kira moved to the center of the room, putting space between them and the walls. The footsteps grew louder. 2 figures emerged from the stairwell. Both human. Both moving with the careful precision of trained operatives. One pulled a knife. The other raised what looked like a dart gun. Kira's hand moved faster than Jake thought possible. A blade appeared in her grip, some kind of ceremonial dagger that suddenly looked very functional. She threw it with perfect accuracy. The dart gun clattered away as the man screamed, Kira's blade buried in his shoulder. Jake rushed the other attacker, using his greater mass to tackle him. They hit the ground hard. The knife scraped across Jake's borrowed jacket, missing flesh by inches. Jake grabbed the man's wrist, slamming it against the marble floor until the knife fell away. Royal guards burst into the gallery, weapons raised. The fight ended as quickly as it had begun. Kira retrieved her blade from the wounded attacker's shoulder with practiced ease. She cleaned it on the man's shirt and tucked it back into a hidden sheath. "You threw a knife," Jake said, breathing hard. "I am a princess, not a decorative ornament." Kira looked at the captured attackers with cold satisfaction. Tonight was educational for everyone involved. The head of security arrived, taking custody of the prisoners. He gave Kira a short bow. "Your Highness, we should move you to a secure location." "Agreed." Kira turned to Jake. "You will come with me. Your dormitory is not safe if they targeted you specifically." "Did they?" "The man with the knife asked for you by name before he drew his weapon." Kira's expression was grim. "Congratulations, Jake. You have become important enough to kill." The safe house was 3 miles from campus, hidden in a residential neighborhood that looked entirely ordinary. Inside, it was pure efficiency. Multiple exit routes, reinforced walls, surveillance systems monitoring every approach. Jake collapsed on a couch in the main room, exhaustion finally hitting him. His hands were shaking slightly. Adrenaline crash. Kira sat across from him, looking frustratingly composed despite the violence they had just experienced. She poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. "Drink. It will help." Jake took the glass and sipped. The liquid burned going down, but warmth spread through his chest afterward. "What is this? Zetharian relaxation tonic. Your coffee equivalent, though much stronger?" "This is insane," Jake said. 6 hours ago, I was a normal student. Now I am fighting assassins in art galleries." "Normal is relative." Kira sipped her own drink. "You were never going to have a normal life, Jake. People like you do not." "People like me. Quick thinkers. Those who act in crisis rather than freeze. You have it in your nature. The military saw it. I see it." Her eyes studied him over the rim of her glass. "The only question is whether you embrace it or spend your life running from it." "I am not running. No. You are not. Which is why I am going to tell you things no human has been told before." She set down her glass. "The conspiracy to kill me and sabotage the peace treaty goes deeper than Drace and a few hired killers. There is evidence of involvement from the highest levels of both our governments." Jake felt his blood go cold. "How high?" "High enough that I cannot trust my own father's advisors. High enough that the human diplomatic corps may be compromised." She leaned forward. "Someone wants this war to continue because peace threatens their power. We are going to find them and destroy them. But to do that, I need someone outside the system. Someone they will not see coming. And you think that is me?" "I know it is. You are an unknown variable. They know my guards, know my staff, know every official protector I have. They do not know you." She smiled. "We are going to use that advantage until there is nothing left of their conspiracy but ash." Jake thought about walking away, about returning to his dorm, his classes, his normal life. The idea lasted perhaps 3 seconds before he recognized it for the fantasy it was. He had crossed a line tonight. Had fought for his life. Had seen Kira throw a blade with the kind of skill that came from years of training. He was not going back. He did not want to go back. "Tell me everything," Jake said. Kira's smile was fierce and approving. "Everything will take days, and I will start with this. 3 months ago, a Zetharian ship carrying peace negotiators was destroyed. The official report blamed human saboteurs, but the investigation was closed quickly. Too quickly. You think it was your own people? I think someone on both sides worked together to destroy that ship. The negotiators aboard were moderates. Their deaths allowed hardliners to take control of the peace process on both sides." She pulled up a holographic display showing the destroyed ship. "Notice the blast pattern. It came from inside the ship. Inside. From the engine room, where only Zetharian crew had access. Someone placed a bomb before the ship ever left port. Then they blamed humanity for it." Jake studied the image. "If you can prove that, then we prove the conspiracy exists. But proof requires access to classified files that are heavily guarded." She looked at him meaningfully. "Files that are stored in the Zetharian embassy compound." And you want me to help you break into your own embassy? I want you to help me break into my own embassy and steal evidence that proves my people are being manipulated into endless war. Kira's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Tomorrow we begin planning. Tonight we rest. Because what comes next will make today's assassins look like a training exercise. Jake finished his drink. The burning in his throat had become a pleasant warmth. He looked at the princess across from him, at the alien woman who had trusted him with her life and her secrets in equal measure. I have one question. Ask. When you threw that knife tonight. How long have you been training? Since I was 6 years old. Every Xantharian royal learns combat. We have too many enemies to rely solely on guards. She tilted her head. Why do you ask? Because I need to know if you can keep yourself alive while I am stealing files from an alien embassy. Kira laughed. I have been keeping myself alive since before you were born, Jake. But I appreciate your concern. The safe house settled into quiet. Security feeds flickered on wall screens. Outside, the neighborhood slept on, unaware that a princess and a college student were planning an operation that could reshape interstellar politics. Jake closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Images from the day flashed through his mind, coffee exploding across white fabric, the cool texture of Kira's skin as he fumbled with her clothing, the cold efficiency of the assassins in the gallery, the weight of a very different future settling onto his shoulders. His phone buzzed, a text from his sister. How was school? He typed back, interesting? Very interesting. Her response came quickly. Good. Mom says you sound happy. Try not to work too hard. Jake smiled in the darkness. Working exactly hard enough, he typed back. The phone went silent. Jake finally slept, his dreams filled with alien architecture and missions he did not yet understand but knew he would learn. In the morning, his real education would begin. The Xantharian embassy compound sprawled across 15 acres of carefully manicured grounds. Gardens from Zethar 7 mixed with Earth flora, creating a hybrid landscape that was beautiful and slightly unsettling. Jake studied it through binoculars from a coffee shop 2 blocks away. Kira sat beside him, wearing human clothes and a projection mask that made her appear fully human. The technology fascinated Jake. The mask read neural patterns and projected an image directly into observers' brains. Anyone looking at her saw a normal college student, not an alien princess. 3 entrance points, Jake said.
Main gate has security scanners.
Service entrance requires biometric clearance. Emergency exit is alarmed. There is a 4th entrance, Kira said. The underground maintenance tunnel that connects to the city's utility system. It was added during construction but not included in official blueprints. Why not? Because my father's security chief is paranoid and brilliant. He wanted an escape route that no enemy could plan for. Can we access it? If we can get into the city maintenance database and locate the exact entry point. Kira pulled out a tablet, which is where your friend comes in. My friend. You said you had a sister with medical bills. I made inquiries. She is a skilled programmer, currently working 2 jobs to pay for her treatments. She could use additional income. Jake stared at her. You want to recruit my sister? I want to offer her a contract position. No danger. Just access to a secure database for substantial pay. She would be helping save lives. Kira met his eyes. But only if you approve. I will not involve your family without your consent. Jake thought about his sister dying by inches because they could not afford better care. Thought about her brilliance wasted in menial programming jobs. Thought about her fierce independence and moral certainty. She would say yes, Jake said slowly. But only if she knows the truth. She will not work blind. Then we tell her the truth. Kira stood. Introduce us. I will explain everything. 2 hours later, Jake sat in his sister's tiny apartment, watching Kira explain interstellar politics to a woman in a wheelchair. His sister's name was Maya. She had been in a car accident 3 years ago. The injuries had left her partially paralyzed. The medical bills had left their family financially destroyed. Maya listened with absolute focus as Kira laid out the situation. When the princess finished, Maya was quiet for a long moment. You are asking me to hack into city infrastructure to help you break into an embassy and steal classified files. Yes, to stop a conspiracy that threatens both our species. Correct. And you will pay me enough to cover my medical treatments for the next 5 years. We will pay you enough to cover treatments for life. Kira's voice was firm. And you will have access to Xantharian medical technology. We can repair your spine. Maya's hands tightened on her wheelchair armrests. Our regenerative medicine is centuries ahead of human technology. The damage to your spine is extensive but repairable. I already consulted with our medical staff. They can help you. Kira leaned forward. But I need your help first. Maya looked at Jake. You trust her? With my life. Which I have already done. Twice. Maya turned back to Kira. Show me what you need. 3 days of planning followed. Maya worked through the city maintenance records with ruthless efficiency, mapping utility tunnels and access points. Jake trained with the Royal Guards, learning alien weapons and combat techniques. Kira coordinated with her contacts inside the embassy, identifying which files they needed and where they were stored. The plan came together like puzzle pieces clicking into place. They would enter through the maintenance tunnel at midnight. Jake would disable security systems using codes Maya had extracted. Kira would access the classified servers in her father's private office. They would be in and out in 30 minutes. Simple. Clean. Likely to get them killed. The night before the operation, Jake could not sleep. He found Kira in the safe house kitchen, drinking tea and studying holographic schematics. Nervous, she asked without looking up. Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. She finally met his eyes. I need you to understand something, Jake. If we are caught, I will be arrested by my own people. You will be tried as a spy. The peace process will collapse. Both our species will suffer. I know. And you are still willing to do this. I am still willing to do this. Why? Kira set down her tea. You've known me for less than a week. Your loyalty should not run so deep so quickly. Jake thought about how to explain it. About the moment he had seen past social convention to help her. About how she had trusted him in her moment of vulnerability. About how she offered hope not just to him, but to his sister, to his family, to countless others caught in the machinery of war. Because you are trying to do the right thing, Jake said finally, even when it costs you everything. Even when your own people might destroy you for it. That is worth fighting for. Kira smiled, but there was sadness in it. The right thing. Such a human concept. My people would say I am betraying my position for sentiment. What would you say? That sometimes sentiment is all that separates civilization from barbarism. Get some rest, Jake. Tomorrow we become criminals in service of a better world. Jake slept fitfully, his dreams filled with underground tunnels and locked doors. The maintenance tunnel smelled of damp concrete and machine oil. Jake led the way, a small flashlight illuminating the path ahead. Kira followed silently, her Zetharian grace making her footsteps nearly soundless. Maya's voice crackled in their earpieces. You should reach the embassy access point in 50 meters. There is a service ladder marked with a blue stripe. Jake found the ladder and climbed. Above, a heavy hatch blocked their way. He pulled out the override codes Maya had provided and punched them into the keypad. The hatch opened with a pneumatic hiss. They emerged into a sub-basement filled with environmental control systems. Banks of machinery hummed with power. No guards were visible, but cameras watched every corner. Cameras are on a loop, Maya said. You have a 10-minute window before the system resets and alerts security. Jake and Kira moved fast, winding through corridors that Kira knew from memory. They took a service elevator up 5 floors, then crossed through a maintenance shaft that bypassed the main security checkpoints. My father's office is at the end of this hall, Kira whispered. 2 guards outside. I will distract them. You go through the ventilation duct and enter from inside. That was not the plan. Plans change. Trust me. Kira walked around the corner, her projection mask flickering off to reveal her true appearance. Jake heard her voice, imperious and commanding. I require access to my father's office immediately. Your Highness, we were not informed of your arrival. The guard sounded confused and alarmed in equal measure. Because I did not inform anyone. My father requested documents that I am retrieving on his behalf. Step aside. We cannot allow access without proper authorization. Then contact my father and ask him. In the middle of his sleep cycle. I'm certain he will appreciate being woken. The guards hesitated. In that moment of uncertainty, Jake moved. He climbed into the ventilation shaft, crawling through narrow metal tunnels until he reached the grate overlooking the office. He dropped down silently, landing on thick carpet. The office was massive and opulent. One wall displayed a holographic view of Zethar 7, another held ancient weapons in display cases. The desk was carved from a single piece of alien wood, dark and gleaming. Jake moved to the terminal built into the desk. Maya had provided access codes, but the system required both biometric scanning and a physical key. Jake pulled out a device the Royal Guards had given him. It projected a copy of Kira's biometric signature. The system unlocked. Jake navigated through layers of encryption that Maya had mapped out, drilling down into classified files that even ambassadors could not access. He found what they needed and began downloading. The office door opened. Jake spun, heart hammering. Kira stepped inside. The guards are requesting confirmation from my father. We have perhaps 5 minutes before they receive it. Jake's device showed 2 minutes remaining on the download. Too long. He pulled out a secondary data chip. Can you stall them? But I can do something better. Kira moved to her father's desk and activated a priority override. An alert will now tell them I am accessing these files with his explicit permission. They will stand down. They will also know you were here. Yes. Kira met his eyes. This burns my cover completely, but it ensures we succeed. The download completed. Jake pocketed both data chips, redundancy in case they were separated. They moved toward the door just as heavy footsteps approached from the corridor. The window, Kira said. We are 5 floors up. Yes. Kira pulled a compact device from her jacket. Kinetic dampener. We will survive the fall. Jake wanted to argue, but there was no time. They ran to the window as the office door burst open. Guards shouted in Zetharian. Kira smashed the window with her elbow and grabbed Jake. They jumped. The fall was terrifying and brief. The kinetic dampener activated, bending space around them. They hit the ground rolling, the impact no worse than stepping off a curb. Alarms screamed through the compound. Lights flooded the gardens. Run! Kira said. They ran. Behind them, guards poured from the building. Above, drones launched into the night sky. Jake's earpiece crackled. Maya's voice was tight with stress. They have locked down the perimeter. You cannot go back through the maintenance tunnel. Alternative exits, Jake gasped out. East wall. Security fence, but no guards yet. I am looping their camera feeds, but you have maybe 30 seconds. Jake and Kira sprinted through alien gardens, vaulting over decorative barriers and dodging between sculptures. The east wall appeared ahead, 12 feet high and topped with sensor equipment. Kira produced a small disc and threw it at the wall. It attached with a magnetic click and began emitting a pulse that made Jake's teeth ache. The sensor equipment sparked and died. Up, Kira said. Jake boosted her up, then leaped and caught the top of the wall. His arms screamed as he pulled himself over. They dropped to the other side just as spotlight swept over the position they had just vacated. They ran 3 more blocks before ducking into an alley. Jake bent over, hands on his knees, breathing hard. Kira looked barely winded. We need to disappear, she said. They will lock down the entire sector within minutes. Jake pulled out his phone and made a call. It was answered on the first ring. How did it go, Maya asked. We need extraction and a place to hide for a few hours. Already arranged. Check your messages. A moment later, an address appeared on Jake's screen. It was a warehouse in the industrial district miles from here. Can you make it? Kira asked. If we can find transport that does not leave a digital trail. Kira smiled. Leave that to me. 10 minutes later, they were riding in a stolen delivery truck, weaving through late-night traffic while police drones searched the skies behind them. Jake drove with a care born of desperation. Kira navigated using a paper map, refusing to use any device that could be tracked. They reached the warehouse at 2 a.m. Maya had arranged for supplies. Food, water, changes of clothing, and, most importantly, electronic equipment capable of analyzing the stolen data. Jake inserted the data chip into a secure terminal Maya had set up. Files began populating the screen. Communication logs. Financial records. Orders from the highest levels of Zetharian and human government. Proof. Hours passed as they combed through the information. The picture that emerged was damning. A cabal of military officials and industrial magnates from both species had orchestrated the destruction of the peace negotiators' ship, had arranged subsequent attacks to inflame tensions, had paid assassins on both sides to target moderates and peacemakers, all to ensure the war continued. All for profit and power. This is enough, Jake said as dawn light crept through the warehouse windows. This proves everything. Proving it and surviving long enough to reveal it are different challenges, Kira said. Her face was drawn with exhaustion. The moment we go public, they will move against us with everything they have. Then we move first. Jake pulled out his phone. I know someone at the Global News Network. She is hungry for a real story. You trust her. I trust that she loves a scandal more than she fears authority. Jake made the call. 20 minutes later, a reporter named Ellen Vasquez arrived at the warehouse with a camera crew. She listened to their story with growing excitement, her eyes lighting up at the evidence they presented. This is the biggest story of the decade, Ellen said. But if I run this, both our governments will try to bury me. Then make sure you release it everywhere at once. Give copies to every major news organization simultaneously. Make it impossible to contain. Jake leaned forward. This is your chance to matter, Ellen, to do something that changes the world. Ellen looked at the files on the screen, then at Kira, then back at Jake. I need to verify some of these documents. Give me 6 hours. You have 3, Kira said. After that, we are either dead or in custody. Move fast. Ellen nodded and left with a copy of the data. Jake and Kira sat in the warehouse, exhaustion finally catching up to them. We might have just started a civil war on 2 planets, Jake said, or prevented one. Kira's eyes were closed. Either way, we told the truth. What happens next is beyond our control. Jake's phone buzzed. A message from his mother. Are you okay? The news is saying there was a break-in at the embassy. I am fine, Jake typed back. We'll explain soon. He did not mention that he was the one who had broken in. Did not mention the classified files or the conspiracy or the alien princess sleeping upright in a chair beside him. Some conversations required more than text messages. Maya's voice crackled over a radio they had been given. The data has been verified. Ellen is going public in 1 hour. The story is spreading through news networks faster than anyone can contain it. She paused. You did it. You actually did it. Jake felt something release in his chest, a tension he had been carrying since the moment he had spilled that coffee. We did it, he corrected. All of us. Outside, sirens began to wail. Not emergency sirens. These were different. The sound of entire systems changing. Of power structures cracking, of truth forcing its way into the light. Kira opened her eyes. So it begins. The warehouse door burst open. Royal guards poured in, weapons raised, but their leader wore the insignia of Kira's personal protection detail, the one she trusted above all others. Your Highness, the guard said, your father has issued a recall. You are to return to the embassy immediately. For arrest. For protection. The news has caused chaos on both Zethar and Earth. Hardliners are calling for your execution, but moderates are rallying to your defense. Your father is attempting to maintain order. He requests your presence. Kira stood slowly, and Jake. The human stays with you, by order of both your father and the Earth President. Apparently his actions are being called both treason and heroism, depending on who you ask. Jake stood as well. But what does that make me? Complicated, the guard said. Very complicated. Now please come. Before the situation deteriorates further. They were escorted back to the embassy compound in armored vehicles. The streets were filled with protesters. Some chanted for peace. Others demanded blood. Media drones swarmed overhead like mechanical insects, recording everything. Inside the embassy, Kira's father waited. He was tall and imposing, with the same violet eyes but a harder expression. He looked at his daughter with something between pride and fury. You have caused a diplomatic incident that spans star systems. I have exposed a conspiracy that threatened both our species, Kira replied evenly, by stealing classified documents and breaking into my personal office. Yes. The room was silent. Then Kira's father smiled. It was a fierce expression, full of sharp teeth. You are either brilliant or insane. Perhaps both.
He turned to Jake. And you.
A human college student who somehow became central to interstellar politics in less than a week. Explain yourself. Jake met the alien king's gaze. Your daughter asked for help. I provided it. That is all. That is all. The king laughed. You do not bow. You do not apologize. You simply state facts as if they excuse everything. He turned to his advisors. I like him. He stays. Your Majesty, one advisor began. He stays. The king's voice carried absolute authority, and so does my daughter. Because, despite her methods, she was correct. The evidence she uncovered proves we have been manipulated by our own officials. That is a stain on our honor that must be addressed. The following days were chaos. Joint investigations were launched on Earth and Zethar 7. Officials were arrested. Military officers were removed from command. The conspiracy was larger than even Kira had suspected, reaching into the highest levels of both governments. Jake became famous overnight. His face was everywhere, accompanied by stories calling him everything from a hero to a traitor to an interspecies liaison. He ignored all of it and focused on his new job, which was apparently being Kira's permanent human advisor. The pay was good. The insurance covered his sister's treatments. Maya received access to Zetharian medical technology as promised. 6 months later, Jake stood on a balcony overlooking the embassy gardens. Kira joined him, wearing formal robes for the peace signing ceremony that would occur later that day. Feeling nostalgic? She asked. Just thinking about coffee. Kira laughed. The beverage that changed 2 worlds. The beverage that revealed 2 people willing to act when seconds mattered. Jake looked at her. Do you regret it? Never. Kira's eyes reflected the alien sun. You taught me that sometimes the correct choice is the one that breaks every rule. That competence matters more than protocol. That a single person acting with courage can change the course of history. I just spilled coffee on you. You just trusted your instincts when it mattered most. That is a rarer gift than you realize. Below them, dignitaries from a dozen worlds were gathering for the ceremony. The peace accords had been rewritten by moderates on both sides. Trade agreements were being negotiated. Cultural exchanges planned. The war that had raged for a generation was finally ending. All because Jake had grabbed a princess and pulled her into a janitor's closet. All because Kira had seen potential in a flustered human and chosen to trust it. All because when crisis came, they had chosen to act rather than freeze. Your sister is cleared for her first surgery next week, Kira said. The physicians are optimistic. Jake felt emotion tighten his throat. Thank you for all of this. Thank me by continuing to serve as my advisor, and perhaps by being more careful with beverages in the future. I make no promises about the beverages. Fair enough, Kira smiled. After all, look where carelessness brought us. They stood together as the ceremony began below, as representatives of two species moved toward a peace that had been nearly destroyed by those who feared it. The coffee stain was long gone from Kira's clothing, but the change it had catalyzed continued to spread outward like ripples in water. Sometimes history turned on great battles and momentous decisions, and sometimes it turned on a spilled drink and two people willing to trust each other in the seconds that followed. Jake thought that was appropriate. After all, the universe had always been more chaotic than anyone planned for. The only question was whether you adapted or drowned. He had chosen adaptation, had chosen to act when frozen would have been easier, had chosen to trust when skepticism would have been safer. And in doing so, he had become part of something larger than himself. The ceremony continued. Music from Earth and Zethar combined in harmonies that should not have worked but somehow did. Jake watched it all and marveled at the improbable chain of events that had led him here. From the crowd, he caught sight of his sister. Maya had traveled here for the ceremony, still in her wheelchair, but with surgery scheduled that would change that. She waved at him, her smile bright with hope. Their mother stood beside her, weeping with joy and relief. Jake waved back and felt something settle in his chest. Purpose, direction, the sense that he was exactly where he needed to be. Beside him, Kira was silent, watching her people and his moving toward a future neither could fully predict. But they would face it together, advisor and princess, human and Zetharian, two people bound by circumstance and choice in equal measure. The peace treaty was signed as the sun set, bathing everything in colors neither species had words for. In the moment the two leaders shook hands across the divide of culture and biology, Jake allowed himself to believe it would hold, that the conspiracy had failed, that the forces of division had lost this round. It would not be permanent. Peace never was. But it was a beginning, and beginnings mattered. That night there was a celebration that spanned two worlds. Humans and Zetharians mingled with cautious curiosity that slowly warmed into genuine interest. Barriers that had stood for years began to crack. Not because of grand gestures or political maneuvering, but because people on both sides chose to see each other as people rather than enemies. Jake found himself telling the story of the coffee incident for what felt like the 100th time. The details had become polished through repetition, but the core remained true. A moment of clumsiness that revealed character. A crisis that demanded immediate action. A choice that changed everything. People loved the story because it was absurd and human and hopeful. Because it reminded them that sometimes the greatest changes came from the smallest accidents. That destiny was not always grand and orchestrated. Sometimes it was just a nervous college student with shaking hands and an alien princess who saw potential in chaos. As the party wound down, Jake escaped to a quiet corner. He needed air, needed space from the crowds and attention. He found a balcony overlooking the city, the lights of Earth civilization spreading out like a second sky. Kira found him there, as he knew she would. They had developed a rhythm over the months, an understanding that went beyond words. She stood beside him in comfortable silence, both of them watching the world turn below. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had not spilled that coffee? Kira asked eventually. Every day. And I think we would have found each other anyway. Different circumstances, different crisis, but the same result. Jake glanced at her. Some things feel inevitable in hindsight, perhaps. Or perhaps we create our own inevitability through the choices we make in unexpected moments. She turned to face him fully. I have something to ask you, Jake. He waited. My father is forming a new department. Cultural Liaison and Crisis Response. Its purpose is to prevent the kind of conspiracy we uncovered from ever taking hold again. He has asked me to lead it. Kira's eyes were intense in the city lights. I want you as my second in command. Jake felt the weight of the offer. It meant abandoning any pretense of returning to normal life. Meant committing to a path that would be dangerous and unpredictable and vital. Meant binding his future to Kira's in ways that went far beyond an advisor relationship. I accept, he said. You did not even think about it. I stopped needing to think about it around the time I jumped out of a fifth-story window with an alien princess. Jake smiled. Besides, normal life was always overrated. Kira laughed, the sound carrying across the balcony. Then we begin planning tomorrow. There is much to do. Systems to build, personnel to recruit, protocols to establish. Tomorrow, Jake agreed. Tonight we celebrate not dying. An excellent plan. They returned to the party together. Somewhere in the crowd, Jake's mother was dancing with a Zetharian diplomat, both of them laughing at the awkwardness of their different biologies attempting the same moves. Maya had drawn a crowd, explaining the technical details of how she had hacked city infrastructure while making it sound like the most natural thing in the world. The reporter Ellen Vasquez was interviewing ambassadors, her career forever changed by the story she had helped break. Everyone had been transformed by the events of the past months. Everyone had found themselves in positions they never could have predicted, and somehow impossibly it was working. Jake danced with his mother when he found her. She hugged him tight and told him she was proud. Told him his father would have been proud too. Jake felt tears threaten but held them back. There would be time for emotion later. Tonight was for celebration. As the party finally ended and people began to drift away, Jake found himself alone with Kira one final time. They stood in the now empty ballroom, the decorations still hanging, but the lights dimmed. It felt like the end of one story and the beginning of another. Thank you, Kira said quietly, for everything. You thanked me by saving my sister's life. We are even. No, we are partners. There is a difference. She extended her hand in the human gesture of alliance. Jake took it, feeling the cool texture of her skin against his palm. Partners, he agreed. They shook hands there in the empty ballroom, sealing the bond that had been forged in crisis and tempered through danger. It would not be easy going forward. There would be more conspiracies to uncover, more threats to face, more moments where seconds mattered and choices defined outcomes. But they would face it together. And that made all the difference. Months turned to years. The department Kira and Jake built became the model for interspecies cooperation. They recruited from both worlds, training teams in crisis response and cultural navigation. They stopped 3 more conspiracies before they could gain traction. Saved lives through quick thinking and careful planning. Jake became fluent in Zetharian and learned their combat techniques. Kira studied human psychology and political theory. They grew into their roles and into their partnership, each compensating for the other's weaknesses, each amplifying the other's strengths. Jake's sister completed her treatments and joined their department as head of technical operations. His mother retired comfortably on the salary Jake provided. His old EMT partner reached out one day, amazed at where life had taken them both. They met for coffee and laughed about how nothing ever went according to plan. The galaxy continued to turn. New crises emerged and were handled. New species made contact and required integration. The peace held, not perfectly but persistently, maintained by people who chose cooperation over conflict. And through it all, the story of how it started was told and retold. The coffee incident that became legend. The moment of clumsiness that revealed character. The seconds of decision that changed the course of history. Jake never grew tired of hearing it. Each telling reminded him that greatness was not always grand. That sometimes the most important thing you could do was act with competence when everyone else was frozen with shock. That trusting the right person at the right moment could ripple outward in ways you could never fully predict. He thought about this on the 10th anniversary of the peace accords, standing once again on a balcony with Kira beside him. They were older now, marked by the years of service but still sharp, still ready for whatever came next. 10 years, Kira said. It feels like yesterday and also like a lifetime ago. Both are true. Jake watched the celebrations below. Think we will make it to 20. If we do not, it will not be for lack of trying. She glanced at him. Any regrets? None. You? Only that I did not start drinking coffee sooner. Imagine what we could have accomplished with an extra year. Jake laughed. I think we did all right with the time we had. Yes, we did. The celebration continued below them. Two worlds joined in hope and determination, and above it all, two people who had started with nothing but a spilled drink and a willingness to trust each other when it mattered most. They had built something worth protecting, had proven that cooperation was possible even across the vast divide of species and culture, had shown that sometimes all it took to change the universe was one person willing to act and one person willing to believe in them. It was not the ending Jake had imagined when he first walked into that coffee shop so long ago. It was something better, something earned through danger and sacrifice, and the kind of trust that only came from surviving the impossible together. Kira turned to him with a smile. Ready for the next decade. Jake smiled back. Ready for whatever comes. And together they walked back into the celebration, into the future they had built from chaos and choice, into the next chapter of a story that had started with a splash of coffee and become a legend that would outlive them both. Some stories ended with happily ever after. This one ended with simply after, with the ongoing work of maintaining peace, of building bridges, of choosing cooperation over convenience. It was not always easy. It was not always safe. But it was always worth it, and that, Jake thought, was the best ending he could have asked for. The galaxy turned. The story continued. And somewhere in the universe, someone else was probably spilling coffee on someone important, beginning their own improbable journey toward greatness. Jake hoped they would be brave enough to act when the moment came, hoped they would find their own Kira, their own partner in the chaos. Because in the end, that was all anyone needed, a moment of crisis, a choice to act, and someone willing to trust you with the consequences. The rest was just details, and Jake had become very good at managing details.